Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. South Korean investigators have asked police on Monday to execute a warrant of arrest for President Yoon Suk Yeol after their initial attempt last week ended in failure following an hours-long standoff with the security team. The Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials said it asked the police to execute the warrant on their behalf as the court-issued warrant is set to expire by the end of the day. This comes as Yonhap reported on Sunday a South Korean court dismissed an appeal by lawyers of Yoon against an arrest warrant for the impeached president.
대통령 경호처는 지난 1월 3일
The Presidential Security Service did not intend any kind of bother to the law enforcement of the investigation agencies. Although the impeachment motion for President Yoon Suk Yeol has been passed at the National Assembly, Yoon is still the current president of this country who is elected by the sovereign residents of South Korea. And Yoon is receiving the appropriate security service according to that, as stipulated by law.
The attempt to arrest Yoon came after he refused multiple requests to appear for questioning over his actions on December 3rd when he declared martial law for about 6 hours in an episode that shocked the nation and the world. Yoon's legal representatives are considering filing an appeal at the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, multiple groups have been holding demonstrations near his official residence, some urging his immediate arrest and others protesting against it. In the U.S., Secretary of State Antony Blinken departed for South Korea amid the political crisis there. He will meet with senior South Korean government officials and discuss how they can strengthen key efforts to promote free, open, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, as well as trilateral efforts with Japan. The Korean Kospi higher today by 1.5%, and the Korean won also appreciating against the U.S. dollar by 0.1%. The United Steelworkers Union believes by blocking Nippon Steel's takeover of U.S. Steel, President Joe Biden may be putting jobs at risk instead. The group says a Japanese company committed to 10 years of no layoffs, a clause in the agreement workers don't think they can get from any other bidder. Nippon Steel also promised not to reduce production capacity in the U.S. over the next decade without first getting government approval. U.S. Steel said the company will continue to fight for this deal with Nippon. Meanwhile, an analyst says the U.S. decision to block the acquisition of U.S. Steel by Japan's Nippon Steel is an act of protectionism. U.S. President Joe Biden rejected the nearly $15 billion purchase deal for Nippon Steel to acquire the Pittsburgh-based company on Friday, sparking discontent in Japan, with many believing that the interference was unjustified. Japan's Infinity's chief economist says measures that prevent Japanese companies from entering the U.S. market may weaken economic ties between Japan and the U.S. at the foundational levels, as seen in past cases involving industries like semiconductors and automotive.
It is difficult for Japan to deal with U.S. protectionism on its own. That was the case in the past with the semiconductor industry. And it also happened with the automotive industry. It can't be ruled out that Japanese companies that have entered the U.S. market may quietly withdraw from the United States before the situation worsens. So, in that sense, this is weakening the economic relationship between Japan and the United States at the corporate level, also the fundamental level.
Nippon Steel was also contending with headwinds from the CEO of a rival bidder of the firm, who is said to have cast doubt on the deal's prospects to investors. Reuters reports summaries of investor calls, including a December 17 letter from lawyers of Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. Laurencio Gonçalves says, or the CEO of steelmaker Cleveland-Cliffs, participated in at least 9 calls, assuring investors that U.S. President Joe Biden would scuttle the Nippon Steel merger months before he did so on Friday. The White House said neither Gonçalves nor his comments played a role in Biden's decision to kill the deal. It said on Friday that the proposed purchase presented national security concerns. Cleveland-Cliffs has previously made a failed $7 billion bid for U.S. Steel in August 2023, but U.S. Steel raised concerns a tie-up with the Cleveland-Cliffs risked being shot down by antitrust regulators because it would consolidate the supply of steel to U.S. automakers and put up to 95% of U.S. iron ore production under the control of one company. Billionaire Elon Musk and UK leader Nigel Farage are caught in an online spat. It's related to British anti-Muslim, anti-immigration activist Stephen Yaxley Lennon, known by the pseudonym Tommy Robinson, who is serving a prison sentence. Farage had distanced himself from comments made by Musk in support of Robinson and on the Facebook page of a political organization affiliated to Reform UK. This comes just days after an interview on the BBC aired Sunday where Farage hailed Musk as a hero of free speech and defended the tech mogul's post on X, which claimed that Prime Minister Keir Starmer was complicit in the rape of Britain, in quote, when he failed to prosecute rape gangs as head of the UK Crown Prosecution Service in 2008.
At least with Elon, we've got free speech back. Whether we like everything he says or not, he is a hero. And I'm very pleased that he's backing our party, even if reports of his financial donations or potential donations, as put in the Sunday Times, are somewhat over-exaggerated.
Britain's health minister defended the Prime Minister's record and described Musk's comments as ill-judged and ill-founded criticism. Earlier this month, Farage said Musk would be donating money to Reform UK, reportedly as high as $100 million, which Farage dismissed as somewhat over-exaggerated, but in an abrupt withdrawal of support on Sunday. The tech mogul, a close ally of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, posted that Reform UK needs a new leader and Farage doesn't have what it takes. Italy is in advanced talks with Elon Musk's SpaceX for a deal to provide secure telecommunications for the nation's government, the largest project in Europe. Sources tell Bloomberg the 5-year contract has already been approved by Italy's intelligence services as well as its defense ministry. Italian officials have been negotiating on a $1.6 billion deal aimed at supplying Italy with a full range of top-level encryption for telephone and internet services used by the government. The plan also includes communication services for the Italian ministry in the Mediterranean area, as well as the rollout of so-called direct-to-cell satellite services in Italy for use in emergencies like terror attacks or natural disasters. This comes as Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni flew to Florida to meet President-elect Trump over the weekend. Meloni had planned to speak with Trump about Russia's war in Ukraine, trade issues, the Middle East, and the plight of an Italian journalist detained in Tehran. That's according to Italian media reports. Meloni is seen as a potentially strong partner for Trump, given her conservative credentials and the stability of the right-wing coalition she heads in Italy. Finally, a bluefin tuna was sold for over $1.3 million Saturday, the second highest bid at Tokyo's Toyosu Fish Market's annual auction since its inception in 1999. Weighing 276 kilograms, the prize catch was jointly bought by renowned tuna wholesaler Yamayuki and upscale sushi restaurant Sushi Ginza on Odera. The current record for the highest bid at the annual auction stands at $3.1 million set in 2019. Coming up, how new laws and trends could redefine the construction landscape in 2025. Stay on BNC and follow the money. Today on Follow the Money, we explore the forces shaping the Philippine economy and construction industry in 2025. With new laws aiming to boost investments and revenues and global trends like shifting work environments, how will these developments affect businesses and infrastructure in the country? Joining us today is engineer Raine Musñgi, founder and CEO of Quantity Solutions, and a representative of the American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. Engineer, good morning, and thank you
Raine,
for
good morning.
coming with us. Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome to Follow the Money. We love that you're here because there are just so many questions in the construction industry these days. Of course, later we'll talk about perhaps an outlook on the industry, but first, can you give us a brief on your company and perhaps how well it has played in the industry right now, what contributions you've made so far?
Yeah, thank you for that, Raine. We've completed more than 700 projects already. And actually last year, we were chosen as the highly commended quantity surveying team of the year in Southeast Asia. And that speaks volumes for us, right? We help project owners develop hotels, airports, condos, bridges, and everything. So, yeah, we're at the forefront of construction.
Certainly, and would you give us an idea, like which projects you're working on that are due to be completed in the coming weeks, months, up to next year?
St. Luke's Hospital is building several new hospital buildings. That's big. Where there are several hotels also coming up. Tourism is really picking up this year, and we're looking at a huge shift from the common real estate projects into the tourism space.
Lots of optimism for this year. We just saw a report from Business World that said that analysts are cautiously optimistic when it comes to revenues for the construction industry and construction boom. We also have companies that are posting some level of revenue and income already, but some are still at a net loss. How would you assess the construction industry at the moment, and what kind of growth do you expect this year or up to next year?
There'll be a huge growth. Number one, DPWH just increased their budget from 800 billion to 1.1 trillion. That's a huge jump. And we're seeing more manufacturing, more tourism-related projects. There might be some slowdown on the real estate, especially the mid-market. But overall, the sentiment for construction is good for this year. We're done with the wait and see mode during the pandemic. We're now really building more and more.
Right, and we saw a ramp up in government spending towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
But apart from government spending, what are the other factors that might be, maybe slowing down the momentum that the construction? What kind of push do you need further?
I think, we need to push for more privatization. You see the improvement in NAIA. In just 3 months, you saw the huge improvement in NAIA. So we want to see more of that coming. Infrastructure spending will continue to increase. The PPP Center just presented last year how many projects they're trying to build. And we're excited. You have your trains, your subways, your new airports. Beautiful, beautiful news for the country.
Right, and we saw how the build better, more.
More.
Yeah, do you feel that that's going to contribute a lot more in terms of infrastructure, construction, building, materials, import, export, perhaps?
Yeah, good questions, Raine, because right now, the PPP projects that we have for infrastructure has these benefits. Number one, technology transfer. We get to learn more and new technologies. And then there's the capital investment. You have the globally competitive operation. You have the job creation. And then the return of OFWs. All of this will make the country more efficient in terms of managing its asset. And the privatization of all these assets will actually enhance more investments coming in, especially with the PPP program.
The GDP of the Philippines is supposed to be growing, according to the ADB, 5.9% next year. Do you feel that the construction industry will grow by as much, or if not more?
I think so. The construction industry contributes to about 1/10 of our GDP. And it's the biggest barometer, I would say, if the economy is doing well. If the construction industry is doing very well, the economy is doing very well. So we're seeing the infrastructure spending. That means more revenues for our contractors, for our developers. We've seen new projects coming in, new players coming in into the country. That's all good news for all of us.
What are the possible risks or threats that you're seeing for the industry this year or next?
The biggest risk, I would say, is still Forex. 45 to 55% of a project consist of imported items. So when you have the Forex coming in, that's about 10 to 13%, adjustment on your budget. And, you'll have to ask, Rainer, labor costs also going up. But labor cost is only like 4 to 7% increase on a yearly basis, basically on adjustment on inflation. But inflation is, I would say, is lower compared to the impact of Forex, which is 10 to 13%. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge risk for contractors and project owners.
Right, but supposing that more foreign investments come in because of the Build Better More law, then what does that mean for us? Do foreign investors actually, have they signified any interest in building in the Philippines at the moment? Where do they see the gaps being here that's stopping them from fully investing in the Philippines?
Yeah, and the government was actually one step ahead of that when they created the Create More law. The Create More law provides a very competitive scenario for investors. Number one, it promotes more spending on R&D, on research and development. And when you spend on R&D, it has long-term and immediate effect on the economy. And it will create more national income for all of us, create more jobs, and eventually reduce poverty. So we really welcome foreign investments. That's why in American Chamber, we actually travel and talk to foreign companies. We went to Washington, D.C. last year, and we meet with the legislators, to invite them, come to the Philippines and be part of our infrastructure development.
Yeah, you are part of the American Chamber of Commerce, and what has been the reception for Philippine businessmen there? Have they signified any hesitation, perhaps, coming into the Philippines, or what kind of signs do they need from the Philippines to be able to go all in?
Actually, there's a huge interest, especially in our energy space. We're the second most expensive cost of energy in Southeast Asia, next to Singapore. We're double that of Vietnam and Indonesia. So there's a huge opportunity for foreign investors to actually come in and be a player in our energy sector. So we've seen that. And then, of course, the small nuclear reactors, modular reactors, there's so much interest in that. Renewable energy, wherein you can now own 100% of that. So much interest in that.
Right, and we understand, talking to more investors over the past few months, that the ease of doing business remains a huge concern for a lot of investors, as well as, there's no other way to say it, but corruption. You are one of the few companies in the Philippines, construction companies, who is certified for anti-bribery. What does that mean for us? It's the first time we're actually touching on this in the industry.
So ISO 37001, or the Anti-Bribery Management systems, allows the company to actually implement policies that are against briberies, kickbacks, commissions, and everything. Since we are in the construction industry, we want to be the trailblazer in terms of this. Can you just imagine, Raine, if you have like 1,000 construction companies implementing their own anti-bribery management systems? And that's where we're starting. It's difficult to actually get certified by ISO 37001. Took us almost 1.5 years to actually get the certification, but it's all worth it. This is how we change the construction industry, and eventually it will trickle down how we do business as a country. So SGS, shout out to SGS Philippines, who did the certification for us. Those who need help, in implementing their own anti-bribery management systems, we'll be glad to share with them our experience.
Having been certified by ISO for anti-bribery, what does that mean for you? What are the implications? Does it mean more business, more partnerships, more international acceptance, or mergers,
yes,
or whatever?
Almost everything, Raine. Your customers would trust you more, especially that we're given the trust to manage their budgets for their projects. So if they know that, these guys are actually honest and they're doing things with anti-bribery management systems, will be respected. One, you'll get more business coming in, and what it does is that you don't work with people who are doing the bribery part. So that's a good chance for us to actually start saying, hey, Filipinos, we're stepping up and we're actually capable of doing anti-bribery management systems.
On the government side, do you feel that perhaps there's hesitation from agencies? Certain agencies are known to, be popular for actually taking bribes. So does this mean less support from those agencies?
Well, our dream is really to have them, follow what we've done, the anti-bribery management systems. I think this is an invitation for our leaders to actually embrace more anti-bribery management with all our dealings, right? I mean, this country, I was talking to your assistant a while ago, Claire, that this country just needs to rearrange and organize itself. We have all the resources, the human resource, the biggest resource that we have. We have a young, dynamic population. Once you organize that, and then everybody believes in anti-bribery and honesty, this will change the country, right?
Your company is involved in all types of developments here and abroad. Looking at comparing your projects there as well as here, where do you see the loopholes being in terms of our development? What kind of infrastructure do we lack?
Well, right now, it's really our transportation. Coming here took me like 2.5 hours to drive to the studio. And that speaks a lot about our transportation system. We have to organize better, right? I think in AmCham, we're trying to push for more improvement in the infrastructure space, both the hard infrastructure and the soft infrastructure. Our transportation system has to improve because it will benefit all the businesses around it, right? If you lose 2.5 hours of your time, then that affects all of us.
Right. In your experience, of course, the anti-bribery certification is actually probably one of the feathers in your cap. But was there a project that you did for the Philippines that might have actually moved the needle in terms of development that might be memorable for you?
I think, well, one is the hospitals that we're doing. St. Luke's, that's a huge investment. Number two, the railway systems, the railway from Manila to Clark, that now you have an option to travel not just via NAIA, but you can take the train to Clark, well, in a few years' time. And now there's also the train from Manila to Calamba, which will help out with the traffic congestion in the country. But what we're really looking at, and I'm so proud that we have projects in the provinces, Raine, and that's how you decongest Manila, is if you have projects in the provinces that create more jobs nationwide, then you don't have to go to the NCR to actually find work.
Certainly, a better connectivity boosts everybody's progress.
Correct.
Right. Engineer Raine Musñgi, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you sharing your insights with us, the CEO of Quantity Solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Raine. Appreciate it.
He's also a representative of the American Chamber of Commerce here in the Philippines. Now, before we go, we leave you with this thought from British billionaire and Virgin Atlantic founder Richard Branson. Challenges are opportunities in disguise, especially for those building the world. And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News channel, always on top.